So after weeks of election-related cases getting thrown out at the state or federal level and the plaintiffs just saying, on to the Supreme Court, Texas is stepping in like the big state it is and filing a case directly with the Supreme Court. It says Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin unconstitutionally changed election laws, treated voters unequally, and caused voting irregularities by relaxing ballot integrity measures. Sounds very like what we've heard from the Trump campaign and Sidney Powell's team. The motion says these issues prevent the country from knowing who actually won the election and could threaten to cloud all future elections. Texas wants the Supreme Court to block Electoral College votes from those 4 states from the final count. Or if the states have already appointed electors, the state legislature should be told to appoint new electors in line with the Constitution. The total votes across the 4 states are enough to determine the outcome of the election.
It's interesting. You don't see it happen a whole lot. But a state can sue another state, and that's what has happened here. And when a state sues another state, again, to get into some of the constitutional aspects of this, something is invoked called original jurisdiction, which means instead of, like most other cases, working their way up the ladder through the lower courts, which takes time, they go immediately and directly to the Supreme Court, because it's a matter of one state versus another. So you go immediately and directly to the Supreme Court.
What this is saying is you violated equal protection of the law in the way you conducted, you states who are defendants, in the way you conducted your elections. You diluted the electoral votes of the Texas people, and you therefore violated the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution.
What does Texas have to do with what goes on in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia? Well, what it has to do with is if by instituting illegal and unconstitutional changes in the way that the election was carried out, all this mail-in ballot stuff and so forth, you favored the Democrats, okay, because that's what in fact it does. Democrats will tend to use the mail-in ballots rather than show up in person. If your electoral votes, therefore, were steered in the direction of the Democrats and are illegal, that disenfranchises the voters in our state, because the impact of the results is on the whole country. We have one president over the whole country. And so a state can say to another state, if you acted unconstitutionally, you are, in other words, canceling out the legitimate votes in our state. If you get to change your rules at the last minute, but we don't get to change ours, if you can change your rules in a way that benefits one party, why can't we change our rules in a way that benefits the other party? If you guys can bypass the state legislature to change your election rules when the Constitution gives the authority to change those rules to the state legislature, but you guys can go ahead and bypass your state legislature and make changes that you like to make, hey, we're over here, we're following the law, we're following the Constitution.
And the argument is that when the states passed election laws and delegated that to a election type process, when those legal requirements weren't followed, it rendered the result unconstitutional. And so an outcome with the Supreme Court would be to agree that when states break their own rules in the administering of elections and the counting of votes, then that cannot result in a constitutional outcome. So it has to be sent back to the state legislatures, which are the bodies under the Constitution vested with the power to choose the electors for that state.
This is the most significant of the cases filed, and it's the most significant because it is, as Jordan just said, completely outcome determinative. What does that mean? It means that if the court were to rule in favor of Texas, those 4 states, the states named in the complaint, would in fact have their state legislatures determine the outcome. They would pick the electors.
To point out here is that one of the options is that if the electoral college votes aren't redistributed through new electors by state legislatures, Congress gets involved. And even though the House is controlled by Democrats, they don't control state delegations.
This is even a greater majority, so to speak, than it was last Congress. Last Congress, Republicans only controlled 26 delegations, and there was one tie. Jordan, now they're going to control 27, and 2 of them are going to be tied. So essentially, that's a 27 to 21 delegation advantage. If it goes to Congress, President Trump would certainly have the advantage.